All right, so this one's probably going to be a little on the longer side just because there's a lot to discuss. I'd like to talk about commanders. I want also to talk about all three types of commanders in the Tau Codex. I was considering doing individual videos, but there is actually a lot of common ground between the three different types of commanders, so I'd like to kind of discuss that in its own part of the video and then talk about the individual traits, abilities, weapon loadouts, not signature systems, but support systems that you can get for the different types of commanders. So those three are the Crisis Suit Commander, the Enforcer Commander, and the Coldstar Commander. So, to start us off, there's a lot you can do. There isn't necessarily a best way to build a commander. There are several, because the commander can do so many things. It can be a damage output machine, it can be a support character, it can be a very hard to kill HQ. It can do a lot of things very, very well. So a lot of what's best for the commander will depend on what's best for your army. Do you want your commander to be an assassin of some kind and zoom across the table and nuke a character? Or do you want them to support your backline troops? It's all going to depend. So each of the three types of commanders excels in a certain area based on a little bit based on their stats, but more so based on the unique abilities they each get. So starting from the top, we'll cover the common ground first, because that's the easiest to discuss. All three commanders have the ability to allow your core units to re-roll ones. So let's just get the exact wording of that out of the way. It is called Master of War. While a friendly Sept unit is within 6 inches of this unit's Crisis Battlesuit Commander or Enforcer Battlesuit Commander or Coldstar Commander model, each time a core model in that unit makes an attack, reroll a hit roll of 1. So that will apply to both shooting and fighting. Tau aren't particularly good at fighting, but it is there. So it's something that should not be forgotten. Even if you get locked into combat or something bad happens, you're still re-rolling ones to hit, even if you're really bad at fighting. You still get it. There's still an option. There's still a possibility of dealing damage. So something to keep in mind. So all three commanders have that ability, the re-rolls of ones to hit for core units. So since those commanders do not have the core word themselves, they will not be re-rolling ones themselves. The only things that have core as of the balanced data slate are Crisis Suits, Crisis Bodyguards, Pathfinders, Strike Teams, your Fire Warriors, Breacher Teams, and I believe that's it. I think so. Yeah, not much has core in this book anymore. Broadsides no longer have it, so you can't use it on broadsides. I'm just double checking. Oh, stealth suits. Haha, they hid from me. That worked out so well. I wasn't even trying to do that. Okay, so stealth suits also have core. So any of those units, if they're within 6 inches of any of the three commander types, will get to re-roll their ones. Then they also all have the Battlesuits keyword, which gives them all the benefits of being a Battlesuit. It allows them to shoot in close combat if they want to. It allows them also the ability to Manta strike, which is really nice. So they can come in via deep strike should you want them to, or not. It's up to you. Again, a lot of this is going to depend on how you want to build your army. Typically, for me at least, I like to have my commander on the battlefield because I like him supporting my troops. But that's just my style of play. That's how I like to have them. So you could have him Manta strike in with a bunch of crisis suits to support them as well, which is a very viable tactic also. So lots of things you can do, but you can deep strike with a commander, which is really, really nice. And any stratagem that applies to Battlesuits will apply to these commanders, as they all have the Battlesuit keyword. Now, let's get started with the Crisis Battlesuit commander. Since we were talking about keywords, the Crisis Battlesuit commander has the Crisis keyword. So any stratagems that only apply with that keyword, Crisis, will apply to the commander in Crisis Battlesuit, as well as your standard Crisis Suit units and your Crisis Bodyguards. The Crisis Commander is the standard, sort of the original commander. Solid stats. Movement 10 inches, so being able to keep up with the other Crisis Suit units. Weapon skill 3+, so not a slouch in close combat. Ballistic skill 2+. All the commanders have this, 2+. So shooting is real good. Strength and toughness 5, 6 wounds, 4 attacks, leadership 10, and a 3+ armor save. So a decent, respectable stat line. Stat line that went up recently with the codex change. So I believe they were fewer wounds last time. And of course the movement was slower, as all Crisis Suits have now increased their speed up to 10 inches. Now, there's a lot of ways of loading this guy out. You can give them 4 of a variety of things. You can have it be weapons, you can have it be support systems, you can have it be a mix of weapons and support systems. There's all this stuff you can do. Interestingly, though, you could not, say, take a commander equipped with nothing, because in the commander stat sheet it states that a commander in Crisis Battlesuit is equipped with a burst cannon, and there is no option to simply remove the burst cannon from being equipped, but that's the minimum equipment. So a commander in Crisis Battlesuit can be equipped with a burst cannon and nothing else, should you choose. It's probably not a great idea because they have access to a lot of gear, they have good shooting, you might want to give them some support stuff, but if for some reason you want to have the cheapest possible commander, you can take a commander in Crisis Battlesuit equipped with a burst cannon. Now, actually, come to think of it, you could actually make a cheaper commander if you were to replace the burst cannon. So you cannot remove the burst cannon, but you can replace it. You can replace the burst cannon with one of the other war gear options, what used to be called support systems, because a lot of those are free. So if you took one of the free support systems, which would be kind of dumb because a lot of those are centered around shooting. So if you had something that was a support system for shooting with no guns, it would be silly, but you can. So if you really wanted a 90-point commander, you could do it. You could give them a multi-tracker. Or, you know what? You could give him a counter-fire defense system, because that doesn't require any shooting. It just gives you access to the counter-fire defense system stratagem, which would allow you to negate some damage. So, there you have it. 90-point commander. Now, with that ridiculous possibility out of the way, let's get into the real deal, the weapons. The standard commander has access to pretty much all of the standard Crisis Suit weapon options. Air-bursting fragmentation projector, burst cannon, cyclic ion blaster, fusion blaster, missile pod, plasma rifle, Tau flamer. You have access to all of these. You can take 4 weapons, you can take 3 weapons, 2 weapons, 1 weapon, whatever you like. You have 4 slots on your commander. So you've got all of these, and then access to some other war gear. You have counter-fire defense system, early warning override, multi-tracker, shield generator, target lock, velocity tracker. Those are the support systems. So you can take any of those as well. Unique to the Crisis Commander is the ability to take an Iridium Battlesuit. So this, for 10 points, you can buy an Iridium Battlesuit, and that will change your armor save from a 3+ to a 2+. So it's a pretty cool, defense option that you can take. And that Iridium Battlesuit will never replace any of the 4 slots that you need. It's in a separate category on its own. You either have an Iridium suit or you don't. It's up to you. So if you want to spend 10 points and be harder to kill, you can do that. For the other war gear, the only one that will cost you points is the shield generator. It'll cost you 10 points. There's a reason for that, though. It's the best one. Now, it's the best one simply because it allows you to have a commander that has a 4+ invulnerable save. And commanders don't come stock with any invulnerable save at all. So you go from a no invulnerable save at all to a 4+ invulnerable save, which is huge. So another decent defensive option. But that shield generator will take up one of your slots. How to equip these guys? Well, what they've done with the weapon options for crisis suits and commanders alike is they've made it so that if you take multiples of the same weapon, they will become more expensive with each one that you take. Let's look at an example. We'll take the burst cannon as an example. That's one weapon. So if we take our first burst cannon, it'll cost us 10 points for a commander. But then the second burst cannon will cost 15 points. The third will cost 20. Now, the way it's listed here in the codex is it says 10, 15, 20. But if you remember, the commanders can take 4 things in those 4 slots. So the way it works for the cost of the 4th one is it's the same as the 3rd. So 10 points for the first, 15 points for the second, 20 points for the third, and a further 20 points for the 4th. That's just how it works. So if ever you want to know the price for the 4th weapon of that type, it's the same as the 3rd. Although they've really made it so that it's kind of undesirable to have 4 of the same weapon. Although, if you were to have 4 of the same weapon on one unit, a commander would be that one, just because of the super high ballistic skill. You have a great way of delivering something. It used to be that 4 fusion blasters was the way to go in certain loadouts for the commander because it's so lethal. You've got 4 fusion blasters hitting with that excellent ballistic skill. You're likely to cook something. Now, though, if we look at it, the base cost of a Crisis Battlesuit commander is 90 points. If we are to take 4 fusion blasters, the first is 15 points, the second is 20, the third is 25, and the 4th is a further 25, giving us a total cost of 175. So from 90 points to 175 points. It's not worth it. Because having a Crisis Suit commander with 4 fusion blasters is still very dangerous. Just remember that you're spending a serious premium for those extra weapons. One thing I've seen is having a Crisis commander with 4 fusion blasters and the Warlord trait, Precision of the Hunter, which allows them to reroll all hits and all wounds with those 4 fusion blasters. Incredibly deadly, but also incredibly targetable. You want to be close for those fusion blasters. So likely you're going to be close to some of your enemy units. you have no invulnerable save if you have 4 fusion blasters. You have your armor save, you have 6 wounds. You could pay for an Iridium suit, that's another 10 points on top of that, that's 185. That's 185 for a unit that is, in this edition, pretty easily killed. Just be careful. Yes, it's a character, and if you have other units nearby, it's not necessarily easily targeted, but if you want to get close with 4 fusion blasters and really make it worthwhile, you're going to have to get risky. So that's something really to consider. Now, what this lets you do, if you do decide not to go for those multiples that keep getting more expensive, is you can choose weapons that have similar profiles for something you'd like to do, instead of simply picking 4 of that weapon that you want. As an example, you could take a fusion blaster, so a very anti-tank weapon. You could then take a plasma rifle, which is a solid anti-tank weapon as well. And then you could take a cyclic ion? What's it called again? Cyclic ion blaster, which is not super anti-tank, but it can be. You can overcharge it, it can get heavier, or more damaging rather. And then your 4th weapon could be a missile pod. So you have 4 weapons that are in and around the same kind of thing. They're high strength, decent AP, multiple damage per shot, but you're not paying that premium for 4 of the same weapon. So that goes for all of the different commander types. Now, some of them have unique restrictions or options for weapons, but overall, they pretty much have the same possibilities for different weapon systems. So, should you equip 4 weapons to your commander? It depends what you want to do with them. Do you want your commander to go in like that fusion commander and deal as much damage as possible? 4 weapons is a pretty good call. Personally, for my commander, I always have a shield generator, because having a character and giving it an invulnerable save when it just doesn't have one for 10 points is always worth it for me. But again, that's my choice. I sacrifice a weapon so that I get that extra defensive bonus. That's just my play style. So I'll give you an example. This is the commander that I use when I play. So I have got him equipped with a plasma rifle, a burst cannon, a missile pod, and a shield generator. Those are the 4 selections that I've chosen. So what I get is decent shots, damaging shots with the plasma rifle and the missile pod. They're relatively long range at 30 inches. I've got the safety of the shield generator giving me a 4+ invulnerable save. And then I've added a burst cannon on top because it's cheap, it's a lot of shots, and if anything gets really close and is threatening, I can shoot them with that too. So I play my way is a more defensive, supportive type commander. So I've chosen the Enforcer as my commander. But we'll get to that in a second. One thing I'd like to recommend with all of your commanders and all of your crisis suits, if you can, magnetize them. Just magnetize them, because the meta is going to change, point costs are going to change, viability is going to change. There's going to be a new codex eventually, and some of the weapons are going to be shit, so just magnetize. It's not that hard. So, for example, boom, I can pop off the plasma rifle. So you can see I've got a little magnet there, and I've got a little magnet on his hand, and then I can, ooh, this is hard to do with the camera. Boom, it attaches. So I can do that. And then if plasma rifles are garbage, okay, we're going to remove the plasma rifle and we'll put something else, a fusion blaster maybe, who knows. But it just really gives you those options, especially with crisis suits as well. As an example, Air-bursting fragmentation projectors just took a hit. So because they ignore line of sight in the most recent balanced data slate, they lost some of their power. Now, if they're firing out of line of sight, whatever they're firing at gets a bonus to their armor. And when you're firing, your ballistic skill goes down by 1. So these things change. Does that mean air-bursting fragmentation projectors should never be used? That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that these things shift a lot. So these are the types of models that you really want to have magnets for. There are plenty of guides online, by the way, YouTube videos. I don't have them. I'm not particularly good at using magnets, so I don't want to demonstrate it, but there are other people out there who put that together and they're really good at it. Honestly, just search Crisis Suit magnetize in YouTube, you'll find it. It'll find you a way to do it. Or if you don't have the magnets, or if you want to do it on the fly, or you haven't magnetized it yet, but you want to slot in some different weapons, I like to use blue sticky tack. It's cheap. It doesn't look great, but it does the job, and you can stick the weapons on. It helps you remember. It helps your opponent remember what weapons are on there. It's easier to go about it. One word of warning, though, with the blue sticky tack, if you ever decide to use it, is that for the crisis suits, you can't see it because I've got a magnet here, but typically for the crisis suits, in their hands, there is an opening, and that's where you're supposed to slot in either the weapon or support system or something. The blue tack can get kind of lodged in there, and you got to kind of scrape it out, so just be wary of that. If anything, you can put the tack, either on the top of the hand or the bottom or something like that, just so you avoid that problem. But find a way to be able to swap out your weapons, because there are going to be times when you want to do it. Not even if the meta shifts. It might be your idea shifts, or your commander, you want to change up the loadout, see if something else works better. You can do that. Now, I've gotten sidetracked very heavily, so let's get back to the Crisis Battlesuit. We've talked about the weapons. The support systems we've got are Counter Fire Defense System, which gives you access to a stratagem that allows you to negate a little bit of damage. It's cool, but again, you're taking up a slot for that. Early Warning Override. This is the one-time stratagem that also allows you to, or it's not a stratagem rather, it allows you to use the Overwatch stratagem for free and Overwatch on 5s. One time. So again, you're taking up a slot for that. Keep that in mind. The Iridium Battlesuit, as I said, does not take up a slot. You either have one or you don't. Multi-tracker. Each time a ranged attack made by the bearer targets a unit containing 6 or more models, an unmodified hit roll of 6 scores an additional hit. This declares that there's a maximum of 1 per model, so you can only have 1 multi-tracker. This is a good thing if you're using, something like heavy anti-infantry, something like that. Can be good because you'll have a lot of models that you're targeting, so you can get extra shots should you choose. Shield Generator. I've already declared my love for this thing. Target Lock. This basically gives you ignoring light cover with your shooting attacks. Velocity Tracker. For anything that has fly, you can add 1 to the attack's hit roll. And again, it says maximum 1 per model. I think they specify 1 per model so that you don't put a bunch of multi-trackers and say I get +5 to hit or something like that. You wouldn't be able to do that anyways, but we avoid confusion. So you have all of these options to choose for the Crisis Commander. Now, let's go into some of the other stuff. Like the other commanders, you can take 2 drones from the tactical drones, which are your gun drones, your shield drones, and your marker drones. You can take 2. You can take 1 and 1, like 1 shield drone, 1 marker drone if you choose, whatever you choose. Personally, I like to have it with 2 marker drones because of the way I play my commander. I like him farther back in and amongst my troops, so he's a little more protected because he's a character. And then the marker drones, they allow me to move around and tag targets for my army to shoot at. If you want a more defensive character, give them a couple of shield drones. The gun drones are kind of, maybe it'll help, but it's only 2 drones. Their ballistic skill is garbage, and but they are the cheapest at 8 points a pop. So you have the options. The cool thing is, with all of these loadouts, all of these possibilities, it's really difficult for me to say, don't ever do this, because there's so much that you can do that, having 2 gun drones, maybe it just works on one model. Who knows? You don't have to take drones, though. You can take 2, you can take none. It's your call. Then, of course, Battlesuit's Manta Strike, we already talked about that. The Master of War ability, rerolling ones to hit for core units. So, unique to the Crisis Commander is the fact that they have something called Tactical Acumen. Each of the commanders has an ability that buffs a Crisis unit. And it's specifically a Crisis core unit, so they can't target themselves. They can target a unit of Crisis suits or a unit of Crisis bodyguards. So Tactical Acumen is this. In your command phase, you can select one friendly Sept Crisis core unit within 9 of this unit's Crisis Battlesuit Commander model. Until the end of the turn, you get 2 things. 1, the unit is eligible to shoot and declare a charge in a turn in which it fell back. Very tactical, very usable in a variety of scenarios. 2, each time a core model in that unit makes a ranged attack, you can ignore any or all hit roll modifiers. That's a bit of a weird one. Essentially what that means is if we've got modifiers like +1 to hit or +1 to ballistic skill from a marker light, that's a modifier. If a unit has some sort of stealth capability that you're shooting at and it has a -1 to be hit, that's a modifier. So this allows you to ignore any or all. It's the best because you can choose. You can choose to keep the positive one, say the marker light. You can keep the bonus to shooting from marker light, and you can ignore the -1 to the hit from the target that you're targeting. So that Crisis unit that you've supported is now very, very versatile and reliable. They can back out and shoot and charge if you want. Be careful, but you can back out, shoot, charge, and you ignore any or all hit roll modifiers. Very cool. Of note, though, this is done in the command phase. So, if you have your commander on the battlefield and then you want to drop in a unit of Crisis suits from Deep Strike, you can't do this, because deep striking happens at the end of your movement phase, which is after the command phase. So that's something to keep in mind. These Crisis Battlesuits that you're targeting and buffing, they have to be on the table in the command phase for you to declare this to happen. Keep that in mind. So that is the unique ability. It's very versatile. It works with a variety of play styles. It just makes one Crisis unit very reliable with their shooting, and it gives them the advantage of deciding to back out and just shooting if they so choose, or charging. You have that as well. So some variety. Now, let's move on to the Enforcer Commander. This guy's my favorite. That's how I've modeled mine, as an Enforcer. But that's for me because I like to have my characters, and typically my HQs, be very hard to kill. I really enjoy that. That's just my play style. And also, especially for commanders, you can only have one of them per detachment. So I don't like the idea of, say, taking those 4 fusion blasters and shooting my guy up the field to probably die after I've killed something. So now there are ways around this. You can take multiple detachments, or you could say run it as Farsight enclaves where you're allowed to take 2 commanders. But personally, for my typically 1 commander slot, I like the Enforcer. The Enforcer has an additional wound, so 7 wounds, which is okay, that's cool. It's not a huge boost, really. But by default, it comes with a 2+ armor save. Okay, so now we have an additional wound and a 2+ armor save. We're starting to get a little tougher. Then it also has Hardened Armor. Each time an attack is allocated to this unit's Enforcer Battlesuit Commander model, subtract 1 damage from that attack. This obviously doesn't work for things that are 1 damage because you can't go to 0 damage. You just can't do that. But anything that's 2 damage becomes 1 damage. Anything that's 3 damage becomes 2 damage. So 2+ armor, extra wound, ignoring 1 damage from multiple damage attacks, amazing. This won't work for mortal wounds, of course. They all carry over. You just take all of those. But for regular damage, yeah, you ignore some of that too. So this already makes him very, very tough. And then I like to give him, as I'd mentioned, a shield generator. So 2+ armor, extra wound, and we ignore 1 damage. And now we have a 4+ invulnerable save. So we're a lot tougher. And of course, there are ways through, what are they, warlord traits and specialist war gear or relics that can make them even harder to kill or build into other build varieties should you so choose. The Enforcer Commander can take all the same weapons that the Crisis Commander can take: air-bursting fragmentation projector, burst cannon, cyclic ion blaster, fusion blaster, missile pod, plasma rifle, Tau flamer. All of those are takeable. But its other war gear is limited, so it has fewer options. The Crisis Battlesuit Commander is probably the most versatile of all of them. The Enforcer is the toughest. You can take a shield generator, a velocity tracker, or one that's unique, or not unique because the Coldstar can take it as well, but something that the Crisis Commander cannot take, a Positional Relay. Once per battle round, when you set up a friendly Sept Strategic Reserves unit, the bearer can use this war gear item. If it does, that unit counts the battle round number as 1 higher than the current battle round number. Interesting that my voice went higher when I said higher. For the purpose of determining where it is set up. But when doing so, it must be set up within 6 inches of the bearer. So that means if you're dropping something in from reserves or deep strike, it's got to be within 6 inches of the positional relay that's on the model. But you count it as 1 battle round higher, which means that on turn 1, you could count it as turn 2, which would allow you to deep strike on turn 1, essentially. Now, the regular deep striking rules still apply, so that does not mean you can get closer than outside of 9 inches from your enemy units, just because you're using this item. So that's one of the items that you can use for a Enforcer Commander, the Positional Relay. But keep in mind, that takes up one of your slots. So you could, for example, have a very tough support style commander where you have a shield generator and a Positional Relay, but only 2 weapons. And this would mean the damage output goes down, but you have the option to drop in a unit turn 1. You have some reliability in that you've got a shield generator, you're a lot tougher, and you've got that reroll 1s to support your core units around you, so you could build more of a support style commander as opposed to a damage dealer. And then the unique ability that you get with the Enforcer for Crisis core units is Resolute Firebase. In your command phase, you can select 1 friendly Sept Crisis core unit within 9 inches of this unit's Enforcer Battlesuit Commander model. Until the start of your next command phase, that unit gains objective secured. So you can give a Crisis unit objective secured. Same thing though, it's got to be done in the command phase. So you can't drop in a unit from deep strike and give them objective secured because it's out of sequence. That unit, that crisis unit, has to be on the battlefield before that happens. It's got to be in the battlefield at the start of your command phase when you declare this ability happens. But it's helpful. You can give a unit objective secured. Only a crisis unit. So, as an example of how to use this, if you have a great big unit of crisis suits, say like 6 crisis suits, and you equip them all with shield drones and shield generators, you can have a very expensive but also very, very tough to kill unit that has objective secured. It's basically troops, which is really nice. Really, really nice. You can have a very tough to kill unit that has objective secured. And finally, we've got the Coldstar Commander Battlesuit. This one has a couple of different weapon options. One weapon has been taken away, the Cyclic Ion Blaster. It cannot take that. But it can take a high output burst cannon. This is basically a better burst cannon. Instead of 6 shots, it's got 10. Instead of AP 0, it's AP -1. But it's 15 points instead of 10. Now, the high output burst cannon, you can only take 1. That is something. Yeah, I believe you can only take 1. Yep, you can only take 1. So there's no multiples. But a cool option would be to take a high output burst cannon and a burst cannon. So you just get a whole bunch of shots. One thing that's unique to the Coldstar Commander is that it comes stock equipped with a target lock. Very cool. So this won't take up one of your weapon slots. You just have it. And it's free. It's just a free target lock, which is excellent. Target lock, of course, basically means that your shots ignore light cover. So this could be very good for a Coldstar Commander that has a lot of shots that's specifically dealing with light infantry. You're ignoring light cover, which is really cool, so any cover benefits, those just get ignored for free, and you have access to the high output burst cannon. So high output burst cannon, regular burst cannon, and then say a Tau Flamer and an air bursting fragmentation projector. Relatively cheap weapon options, all of them really good high capacity shots, you know, a little bit of AP, not so much, kind of lower strength, but ideal for dealing with light infantry. You get 4 weapons, a ton of shots, all of it ignores light cover, very solid for that job. The Coldstar Commander also has access to a positional relay, which is the one that allows units to drop within 6 inches of them on turn 1. So you also have access to that. The Coldstar Commander has 7 wounds as well, so instead of 6, and its movement is 14, so it's faster. This is the speed suit. It's a little faster, and it's got an extra wound. It cannot in any way gain a 2+ armor save. So the Crisis Commander can buy an Iridium suit for 10 points, and the Enforcer just has it. Whereas this commander cannot take it. But you can still take a shield generator to get yourself an invulnerable save, should you so choose. Otherwise, you've got a couple of unique abilities. High altitude maneuvers. This is for the commander in Coldstar himself. Once per battle, at the start of your movement phase, you can remove this unit from the battlefield. If you do, then in the reinforcement step of that phase, so that's at the end of your movement, you can do one of the following. Set this unit back up on the battlefield anywhere that is more than 9 inches away from enemy models. So you can basically say, take them away and then drop them anywhere you want. That's outside of 9 inches from your enemy units. Or, if the mission you are playing is using strategic reserves, place this unit into strategic reserves. So take him off the battlefield and he'll come back in on a later turn. This allows for a serious amount of versatility. You can remove him from the battlefield if he's in a bad situation. You can pick him up on one side of the table and drop him on another. Don't actually drop him, break it, but you can put him down. So very, very cool. Very, very versatile. And it gives that image of the commander actually flying up into the sky and dropping down into a completely different location, or flying up and just getting the fuck out of town. So you've got that. And then its Crisis Core ability is in your command phase. Once again, command phase. You can select one friendly Sept Crisis Core unit within 9 inches of this unit's Coldstar Battlesuit. Until the end of the turn, each time that unit advances, do not make an advance roll. Instead, until the end of the phase, add 8 inches to the move characteristic of models in that unit. So you don't even roll in advance, they just get an extra 8 inches of movement. This still counts as advancing, by the way. So keep that in mind. If you're thinking about it, even though it says add 8 inches to their movement, it still says each time that unit advances. So you cannot not advance. So if you use this ability, you count as advancing, but you get an extra 8 inches of movement. It basically makes them speedier, which is cool. So you have that ability as well. Now, we've gone through a lot. There's a lot here where you've got different weapon options, different loadout options. Certain things are specifics to the certain commander types. So let's say you wanted a tougher, beefier commander, the Enforcer might be the one for you. If you want one that's speedier and can get up in the face of the enemy or maneuver around the battlefield, the Coldstar might be the one for you. If you want more of a support style character that's better at helping out its crisis units and having them deal more damage, or has a lot of versatility, or is maybe a little cheaper, then the standard Crisis Suit commander is for you. All of these are solid options. All of them have a wide variety of builds. So it's difficult to say this one's the best or this one's better than that one. And there are certainly cases where that happens, but there's so much variety that it's kind of hard to say one way or the other. Now, once again, there are YouTube channels and videos online of, damage output tables and all the math hammer and stuff of what's the most effective at dealing damage with what Sept tenants and what stratagems and all that stuff out there. So I'm not going to go through that. That stuff's already out there. It's a quick search away. What I'm saying is you'll be able to get the commander that suits your playstyle. Mine, as the example, is this one. My Enforcer commander. It's got a shield generator, it's got a plasma rifle, a missile pod, and a burst cannon. It's versatile. It's got some cool weapons if I want to shoot with it, some of it kind of long range. It's meant to support my troops, and it's meant to stay alive. That's the idea. He's going to be my warlord. So as an example, I've given him the relic, the Begel Hunter Plate, which gives him extra armor, and I believe it gives him a Feel No Pain roll, which is a 5+ to ignore wounds, if I'm not mistaken. So again, making him even tougher. So those wounds that come through that are cut down, so he takes 2 damage from an attack, well, he's an Enforcer commander. He takes 1 damage. And that attack comes through, if it actually makes it through the armor, I roll a 5+, and I ignore that damage. So just tough. That's the idea. So yes, I've used the Begel Hunter Plate, which yes, will add 1 to my armor saving throws, so even better. And each time it would lose a wound, roll a d6. On a 5+, it's not lost. And then I've added the Warlord trait, Ghost Who Walks Among Us, which gives him a 6-inch advance move, which is cool, but that's not why I took it. I took that one because it also means my commander is -1 to hit, no matter what. -1 to hit in the shooting phase, -1 to hit in fighting. So, -1 to hit, 2 up armor save, ignores 1 of all damage that comes through that's not damage 1. I can ignore those wounds on a 4+, a 5+ rather. I've got a 4+ invulnerable save, and it's a character, so it's easy to hide in and amongst all of my other models. So he stays alive. But that is my commander. That's the one I put together that I wanted, so no one else gets to use it. No. What I'm saying is that's how it works for my playstyle. That's how my commander works within my army. You may use something similar to that, or you may use something entirely different, and they all will work within their respective armies. Anyhow, thanks for watching. If you got any questions, you can leave them down in the comments below, and I'll see you next time.